Hey guys, welcome back to the Vegan Foodie Girl. Today we're going to be making a gourmet tofu scramble. Not just any old tofu scramble, but one that's got a couple of ingredients that you probably haven't seen in tofu scramble before, but that make all the difference to the flavour, the colour, the texture. It is delicious. It stores really well. You can even food prep it. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to the Vegan Foodie Girl, and as the intro said, we are going to be making tofu scramble today. There are a million recipes out there for tofu scramble. None that I've actually liked because they've got too much nutritional yeast or too much turmeric to try and make them look the colour of eggs, or they just taste a little bit weird. So I've come up with this recipe and it's as close as I can get to the memories of scrambled egg. We're going to use a few different things in the recipe today that aren't usually in tofu scramble. One of those things is saffron. Now saffron, so proper saffron, not saffron powder, which is basically just food colouring, is quite expensive, but you use such a tiny little amount that it adds next to nothing to the cost of your tofu scramble. For this recipe, we're going to use about 2 or 3 of these little strands. So there is heaps of little strands in here. We are going to use a very small amount of turmeric, less than a pinch, because I don't want any turmeric flavour in it, because scrambled eggs don't taste like turmeric. And so normally what happens in recipes is people are trying to get a colour to the scrambled tofu and they add heaps of turmeric, but that changes the flavour profile. So we will use just a scant pinch, barely a pinch of turmeric. The other special ingredient that we're going to use today that is not in any of the recipes I've seen around the place is liquid mozzarella. This is my liquid mozzarella here. I'll put a link for the recipe above. This adds a decadent, creamy mouthfeel. So I remember from when I used to eat eggs, you'd put a mouthful of scrambled eggs in your mouth and it had almost a creamy melt in the mouth sort of texture if it was good scrambled eggs. Our liquid mozzarella is going to help replicate that. These 2 ingredients, the saffron and the liquid mozzarella, is what is going to make this a really good gourmet scrambled tofu that will impress even your non-plant-based friends. For our gourmet scrambled tofu, we are going to use half a cup of soy milk, oat milk, whatever milk you normally use. We're going to heat that up and we're going to drop into that soy milk a couple of strands of saffron and the barest pinch of turmeric. We're then going to leave that for a couple of hours to develop this beautiful, rich yellow custard colour. I actually just do it the night before. I heat up the milk, chuck in my saffron, chuck in the barest pinch of turmeric, give it a whiz around like a shake, and then I just pop it in the fridge overnight and it's good to go the next morning. The longer you can let it colour, the better for your scrambled tofu. We're going to use 110 grams of firm tofu. I haven't pressed it, I haven't dried it out or anything. It's just 110 grams of firm tofu. 1 tablespoon of liquid mozzarella, either mine or if you can purchase some, that's great. 30 grams of soft tofu. So firm tofu and soft spongy tofu. That's going to help with the creaminess again. We want to use 1/4 teaspoon of black salt. Black salt isn't actually black, it's pink, but it's called black salt and it has this horrible sulfur smell, which when cooked replicates that eggy smell. So sniffing it now, it's gross, it's horrible because it's such a pungent sulfur egg smell, but it's perfect for scrambled tofu. We'll use 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and we will also use 1 1/4 teaspoons of nutritional yeast. I don't overdo this because scrambled eggs doesn't taste like cheese, so you don't need a heap of nutritional yeast. And at the end, a little bit of parsley to sprinkle over the top of our scrambled eggs. That is it. And this is the simplest recipe you'll ever find. In here, we've got our milk and our saffron and our turmeric. We're going to add in the black salt. The onion powder. Oh, that black salt is strong. Garlic powder. It smells so eggy already. That will dilute when you add the other ingredients, and our nutritional yeast, and we are going to give that a little stir around. Next, we will add in our 1 tablespoon of liquid mozzarella. This is a really key component to it because it gives that really creamy finish to your scrambled tofu. And the little orange floaties you see is just those saffron strands. I'll try and pick one up. No, not going to happen, but they're in there. Then we're going to add in our soft tofu. And we're also going to add in our firm tofu. But rather than putting it in just a chunk, we're going to crumble it a little bit. You don't need to be too fancy. You don't want them too small. You want a few little bite-sized pieces in your tofu scramble. This is a very generous single serve. Normally when I'm making this, I make double or triple the quantities because, believe it or not, tofu scramble when made like this, food preps really well. So I prep it into containers like this, I pop a lid on, and then that can go into the fridge and store as is for up to a week. That means on the mornings where I'm super busy, I can just grab one out of the fridge, chuck it in a fry pan and still have a healthy breakfast. Or sometimes, believe it or not, I just take the lid off, I pop it in the microwave and I cook it in the microwave. Not as good, always better in the pan, but it's an option if you're really pushed for time. So food prep them, guys. Have some sitting in the fridge. Make sure you're getting a healthy start to the day. We've popped all of our ingredients into the bowl here with the milk and the saffron and the turmeric. And what you would normally do is you would let that flavour for a few hours. So make it the night before, chuck it in the fridge and then just cook it up in the morning, or at least let it sit for a little bit to flavour up. I'm going to let this sit for about 30 minutes or so. Then I'm going to come back and we're going to cook it up. This has been sitting for about 30 minutes or so. So we're going to cook our tofu scramble. You need to just pop a pan onto medium-low. It's not going to take too long to cook, but you don't want it to cook too fast. You want to give it time to cook slowly and cream up and absorb some of this liquid and become beautiful, soft and fluffy tofu scramble. I've got a tiny little bit of butter in my pan. You don't have to use any if you don't want, or you could use a little bit of oil instead. I just like to have a little bit of butter for flavour. Once that's sizzling, we're just going to pour the whole lot into our pan. You can see our little strands of saffron there. And I'm going to cook that slowly over medium-low temperature just until some of our liquid is absorbed and it's nice and creamy. Make sure, like you would if you were cooking scrambled eggs, that just every now and then you're giving it a little stir around. And you can see that beautiful eggy colour. That's the saffron. Smells beautiful. And we're just stirring that, we're keeping it moving around, and it'll start to bubble away soon, and then we're going to cook off most of the liquid. This is a really great recipe to serve up for breakfast if you have plant-based and non-plant-based people for breakfast. Normally when you say to people tofu, particularly people that aren't plant-based, they go, ugh, I don't like tofu. Serve them up this gourmet scramble on some sourdough bread with a side of avocado, a sprinkle of parsley. It's absolutely delicious. It's going to have the memories that they love of scrambled egg. It's going to have the texture and the creaminess of scrambled egg, and you might even convert them. It does take a few minutes to cook off on the stove, but it's well worth doing it slowly because you get more flavour into it. But like I said before, if I'm in a hurry of a morning, I take it out of the fridge, whack it in the microwave, chuck it on for a minute, give it a stir, give it another 30 seconds, another stir, 30 seconds and it's done. It's not as good, but it's a quick fix for a weekday brekkie. The cat can't help itself today. Doggy. Dogbird, no. Come here. No. Look at that beautiful, creamy, eggy sort of custard colour. There's nothing artificial about the colour because we haven't used turmeric to try and fake it. We've used saffron instead. It's really worth it. It adds a much better flavour, much more natural looking colour. Hopefully you can see that through the steam. Just cooking the last of that moisture out. You don't want to cook it till it's bone dry. You want some of that creamy moisture left in. And you can see this is a really generous single serve. It could easily feed 2 people by the time you serve it with sourdough, maybe some avocado on the side, maybe some tempeh bacon, which is delicious with it. And you can see how lovely and creamy it's gone. That's that liquid mozzarella that's in there. And that's just about good to go. It's going to thicken a little bit as it stands, so we don't want to get rid of too much of that creamy moisture in there. Good to go. We're going to switch it off now, and we're going to pour that over some sourdough bread, and it's going to be a super delicious, high protein, plant-based breakfast. Sprinkle over some parsley, a little bit of pepper, and you have delicious tofu scramble that looks like egg scramble. Better do a taste test. It is so creamy, guys. The liquid mozzarella gives it that beautiful, rich and decadent flavour. The saffron's very subtle, but it gives it that lovely colour. It is absolutely delicious and well worth the effort to make a good tofu scramble as opposed to just an average one. I'm going to finish my breakfast now. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, guys. If you have, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you back in the Vegan Foodie Girl kitchen next time.